Alright, hello again, this is Philip Steiger at thebest3d.com with Project Dog Waffle and PD Howler, and today we'll be talking a little bit more about how to work with custom brushes, and particularly if you store them and want to manage them, how to make the best use of those. Images that you have stored in brushes can be used at any moment to paint with them again. Here's a picture that I'm going to use. In fact, I just need to put a little bit of a black frame around it. This was created in Dog Waffle with a couple of filters, and it fills the spherize, using the spherize tool, it fills the entire picture to the vertical here, touching at the top and bottom, and I may want to have a little bit of margin around it. So what I'll do is I'll go to the image and say make it bigger, the image size. Not resample, but just image size, and you can say whether you want it, the current image kept in the upper left corner or in the center, which is the default, and just give it a little bit more width, like 800 instead of 720. And maybe 520 instead of the 482 or whatever it had there before. That way we can have a little bit of a frame around it. That may not appear in black, it is in this case, but that depends on whether you have a black color on the background here, and it may be a slightly different value than the black we have here. So to be absolutely sure that it's the same and there is no gap there or no threshold, what I still recommend you do is you go to the color picker here and pick this color that you had already in the background, and then go to the fill tool and click it on the border region so that it's absolutely sure that it's filled with the same background color. Alright, and then so at that point we may want to store this image because we'll probably use this, or you may want to store this image as a brush. Actually, more importantly, we may want to just pick a portion of this image, let's say the whole spherical area, and perhaps one way to do that is to actually go and select the background now with either a ellipse, and you could do that you know, to kind of automatically grab roughly the circular area here. Not what I recommend, it's a little bit tedious. What I would do actually is the magic wand tool here, click the outside, that should work. Now you don't want to select the outside, you really want to select the inside. So at that point you invert the selection, invert the alpha, and now you can go and pick that up. Okay, so you want to perhaps pick up the whole thing, but there's always a little bit of a doubt as to whether I got the edges there too. So what I'll usually do is I'll go with the custom brush selection tool that we've seen earlier and pick something, and that's where it's nice to have the margin, right? So we can actually safely pick around and a few pixels beyond, but only the section that's inside the selection will actually show. And so we store this, and we now have a stored copy, and you see the background around it is transparent. Alright, so this is a good copy to use. We will use a few other images too. Here's one that was created in Genetica. That's a 3D or a 2D tiled texture generator. In fact, there is a copy of Genetica 3 used, included in a project called Cool Creative Bundle. So if you ever go to thebest3d.com and click the banner at the top, Cool Creative Bundle will show you a collection of really cool tools, including PD Pro 4. Now you may already have Beyond 4, so that's not the value for you anymore, but there's Archipelis and other 3D tools. The Digital Auto Painter, absolutely great. There are some tools that are in the form of plugins for Photoshop, filters, Curvy 3D, a great 3D tool, Twisted Brush, Pro Studio, and Genetica, as I mentioned. They just released version 3.6, and you can actually get an upgrade to that, not for free, but at a nice discount. So Spiral Graphic makes a nice tool called Genetica, and I've used it to create some of these pictures that we will use in this example, in this tutorial. So in fact, this one here I'll use as the background. I'm going to copy it into the clipboard, and I will now go into creating a new image, and let's say we want it this big. Okay, and then when we go and look under the image, we can go to the clipboard and say paste new image, or you know, paste this into the image. And it may not fit exactly, or it may have some margins around it. So let's see what happens. Is it too big, too small? Is it just perfect? It's probably a little bit too small. You see a little bit of a white gap or black gap at the bottom and some more on the side. But that's okay. We could still use that. We could, for instance, go to the filter at this point and shift it around to move it more to the center. You know, it's a replicating to the bottom or the top, whichever way you go and shift it. You could actually also go all the way to the transform filter, and let's go there with the transform filter. There it is. And also scale it, right? And then perhaps you also want to rotate it, and because it is a tileable texture, you can also tile it. It is a texture that, in theory, apparently not here, it should be tileable. I don't know exactly what I'm doing wrong here with regard to that. Oh, because it's got some black borders around it. Okay, I would have to have it actually fit the exact picture to begin with. All right, I'm not going to do that here. In this case, what I'll do though is give it a nicely different angle like this. So we'll have a kind of a bright spot in the upper left corner, and I'll zoom in, and we'll use this now as our background picture. All right, let's safely copy that store image Hope we don't run out of memory, and just in case we need to get back to that. Now we'll also superimpose this picture, and that one we could use in the clipboard, copy that from the clipboard again into, and I don't need this one anymore, so close that. I have it in the clipboard. I can go to the brush and clipboard it and copy or paste from clipboard. Okay, now when I do that, I have a copy now in the clipboard, in the brush, and you see it here as the brush image. And of course, I'll probably be safe to first store it so that I can use that any moment I want. Now, if I paint with this one, it's going to be an opaque black background, and I can also certainly increase the opacity, but still it's going to be an opaque background, and I don't want that. So one thing that you could do here in this case is, first of all, make it a little bit smaller. And still opaque. What I'd like to do really is turn it into an additive mode rather than an replace mode. The default is replace. So the mode for the brush is, if I switch it to additive, it's not going to keep not going to show the black parts added to it, because black added to some color doesn't modify the color. So I can now also rotate this a little bit, perhaps I'll have it like this way, and there you go. And I want to make sure I use it in additive mode. And there you go. So we have a nice little galaxy back there. Actually, let's make it really small. Maybe we can filter it under the brush here. We can resample it there too. And you see a bounding box that shows how small it's going to be. And there you go. Let's keep it back there. All right, so we have a galaxy there. We want some planets too. So let's see, this one we're done. We don't need anymore. Here's a planet we created in Genetica. Again, Genetica has tons of excellent tools to create fabulous textures and patterns and planetary and space images. And again, this is one that you can also use in Dogwaffle at that point. Let's copy it to the clipboard, and in the brush, I'm going to store that, paste that into into the brush. So now I have that in the brush. And once again, it's got this solid black background because I didn't have an alpha channel containing the transparency mask. Now another way to work around that is to J for jump, right? To go to the swap buffer. If it's already black, you just keep it that way. If not, you do erase it to black, and then you put that in. So you have the image there now, and you can again select the transparency with the magic wand. Where do we have that? Right here. Select the black region, then invert the selection. Been there, done that a few times now. And then at that point, we'll just go with the custom brush pickup tool. There's a shortcut for that. What could be a good shortcut to define a brush? Well, it's B for brush. So let's go B and pick this up. So now we have the content of that selection inside the custom brush, as we see here. And we can go and store that one. And that one too has a transparent background. All right, so we can paint with that. Let's go back to the main buffer. We can switch it here if we don't remember the shortcut. We don't need the selection mask, so let's go clear the alpha, and we can go and paint that. Now that's very bright. We probably do need to have it a little bit darker on one side, especially if the sun is going to shine on one side here. So there's a variety of techniques to do that, and probably best to do that still on the original here. You know, one thing you could do, for instance, is use the linear tools. Let's see, what do we have here? This one, I think. Yeah, there's the gradient mode, circular gradient tools, even the linear gradient tool in a couple of instances. You know, you could basically use that to map some sort of a gradient. Not this one, and certainly not in a replace mode. It would have to be again in a mode where it's additive rather than, or multiplicative rather than replacing the colors. But at any rate, if you work with your gradients, you can certainly do some pretty good magic there to select the faded look that you want there. One thing I'll do here is perhaps ignore that and instead use another planet. I have one here. This one was created actually in Dogwaffle, but you know, I wanted to point out Genetica because it's really such a great tool also to use in some cases. So what we have here in this case is a picture of this planet, and I think I have it also, yep, here as a brush as we saw earlier. So what I'll do is I'll simply switch back. That would be J for jumping back to this image, and now I can place this planet right in here. Right, and again, using the stored brushes, the stored images, the stored selection masks allows you to quickly do a variety of things with it, like changing the color, the size, changing the angle. Perhaps we needed a little bit the other angle, sort of like this. So you see the bright spot is going to be kind of at a 45 degree in the upper left corner, and then we can place it around here. If you want to see the preview of this custom brush, there's a preview button here, PRV, and now you can actually see where that image is going to be stamped as you stamp it down there. Let's see, or not. I may have a selection. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you have a variety of tools to work with, and the custom brush in a stored state allows you to also change perhaps its color, the hue, the saturation, you know, all sorts of other things. Like if you want to have it a little bit more of a pinkish, reddish tint, given that we have sort of a red giant star somewhere breathing nearby here, we could possibly use that to make it look like it's indeed being sunbathed by that environment. There it is. So let's now add also the lens flares. That would be, of course, the nova or lens flares. And with that, let's go pick something impressive like this one, a red giant. That will be somewhere around here. And then perhaps there's a tiny little green dwarf star over here, perhaps a twin star system right there. All right. So, I mean, one thing you see is that Dogwaffle is a great tool to create all sorts of space art. If you'd like some other examples and ideas for inspiration, I encourage you to go to the website that shows a variety of examples. Go to the overview section. And in this overview section, you'll see on the left side what's new, what's cool, what's possible. Have a look at those. Dodem, that's the dog waffler of the moment, who's been waffling. Under what's possible, you'll see a variety of categories, sort of, you know, what kind of things can you do with Dogwaffle? Where can you use it to create cool video effects, animated ones as well, post effects on 3D work, a variety of other scenarios and usability examples, and then also space art. And here we go. With space art, you'll see some examples. Here's one where we probably used that mystic vision or the zoom blur that we saw in an earlier tutorial. And there's a variety of other techniques to create that mystic haze on the atmospheric glow. There's actually a new feature on that on the inside of the planet in PD Howler. But you can do that even with earlier versions of PD Pro if you use the techniques. Here's one where we just create a sort of an arid looking or dry looking planetary structure. You can put that on the surface. Here's kind of a methane greenish looking tint that makes it look a little bit more like what you might expect on Venus or similar planets. All sorts of great examples here. The Big Bang. These rocks are actually made of popcorn. This is a collection of images that somebody in France has created a tool to create animated brushes, and we use that as a free plugin in Dogwaffle as well. Here's one with actually a real photograph or a real map of, I think this one is the map pictures that come from with Carrara. So there's a great number of techniques that you can explore here to make space art. There's also this one here I like a lot. Wizard had some cool art. We actually have a black hole filter, and I'll finish with that one because the black hole filter, you don't see it so much here. If you go to the filter menu and you look at artistic or transform where you might expect it, well, there's the spherize, there's the globe, there is the fisheye correction, but you don't see the black hole here. You might see it here under all plugins, filters, and sure enough there's a black hole filter. And what that does is, well, it warps this whole thing into a black hole. The filter actually is not listed in here because I guess it just never had the time to be listed there, but you can find it here under the list of all filters, or you can also find it under the other tools here, the utilities or others. There it is, the plugins panel. K used to be a shortcut that I like to refer to as what was it? Killer plugins, right? Where the killer plugins are. So if you look under the filter category, there, the filter tab, you'll find the black hole there as well. So you can just double click that and be done with it. Let me undo the current image, the current transform. There you go. And maybe I want to zoom in a little bit just to see it better. There you go. Move it to the side, and now double click the black hole, and it will apply its magic. And after a few seconds, you have that filter affected here. All right, and that's all for now. We've seen how to use a couple of filters, we've seen how to use the stored images, and that certainly comes in very handy when you have images from other applications in particular that you store in a brush or that you store in images, and you can stamp them down wherever you want and be very creative with it. Alright, talk to you soon again on another episode of The Daily Dose.